we sometimes see a sheep who runs away from the herd, runs away from the community, runs away from faith, runs away from God. And often we're compelled to point fingers and say, you ran away, you're a rebel, you don't belong. You will bear negative consequences. Becoming judgmental, pointing a finger to the sheep that left the cocoon of God, the cocoon of religion. That's not the way. Moses lifted the sheep up on his arms and he said, I didn't realize you were thirsty. I didn't realize you were thirsty. Meaning he understood very well that so many of our young men and women leave God and the path of God, not because they're bad or negative, but because they were thirsty for water of life and inspiration, and nobody showed them how godliness, how holiness can nurture their souls. Chaplains are shepherds not only for the religious men and women in service, for people who identify with religion, but for every single soldier whose soul is connected to God, whose soul yearns for deeper wholesomeness, for spirituality, for inspiration, but perhaps growing up, they have been thirsty and nobody showed them how God can become a source of water. So they had to leave. Because we ought to know that mankind does not have the choice of religion and neutrality. Our energies are too abundant for living indifferently. They once asked somebody, what's the difference between ignorance and apathy? And he said, I don't know and I don't care. Well, our energies are too abundant for not knowing and not caring. We are in need of an endless purpose to absorb our immense power. If our souls are not to decay, we are either the ministers of the sacred or slaves of evil. A human being cannot be neutral. We are either beyond being human or sometimes lower than being human. But when faith is completely replaced by creed, worship by discipline, love by habit, when the crisis of today is ignored because of the splendor of the past, when faith becomes monotonous rather than a living fountain, when religion speaks only in the name of authority rather than with the name of compassion, when God does not address the true needs of a real human soul, when God does not make us better human beings, more fulfilled, more happy, kinder, more graceful, more loving, more selfless, its message becomes meaningless.